Imagine a world locked in an ideological struggle, where every move, every word, every secret is a piece in a high-stakes game for humanity's future. For over 40 years, the United States and the Soviet Union battled across continents, minds, and technologies. But was America's ultimate goal really to bring down the USSR by any means necessary? Why would Washington invest billions, risk nuclear war, and unleash covert operations just to see the world's biggest rival implode? This video uncovers the real plans, motivations, and consequences behind America's secret drive for the Soviet Union's collapse. Chapter 1. Beginnings: Containment and early strategic seeds of American strategy were sown in the aftermath of World War I. The US emerged as the world's most powerful democracy, and thus returned home with dreams of building a communist future. As Stalin tightened his grip over Eastern Europe, American policymakers feared a global communist takeover. The Truman Doctrine and the Marshall Plan set America on a course of containment, preventing Soviet expansion, but not openly seeking the USSR's destruction. Secret war plans were drafted like Pincher, Broiler, and Half Moon, anticipating nuclear, conventional, and psychological warfare if the Cold War turned hot. Yet, in the 1940s and 1950s, the goal wasn't collapse, but survival, holding the line so democracy could outlast communism. Chapter 2. Escalation: The era of proxy wars. As the Cold War matured, each side avoided direct conflict but fought bloody proxy wars in Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Africa. America pursued strategies to weaken the Soviet bloc, supporting anti-communist movements, local alliances, and economic pressure, infiltrating Soviet spheres with propaganda, culture, and consumer exports, like Hollywood films and blue jeans, funding revolutionary undergrounds from Latin America to Eastern Europe, engaging in brutal psychological operations and intelligence coups attempting to destabilize governments aligned with Moscow. The ultimate aim of these actions, however, was to drive wedges in the Soviet system, create cracks, and encourage defection, not yet a total breakup. Chapter 3. The technology and economic gamma throughout the 1960s and 1970s thus launched multifaceted campaigns to outpace the Soviet economy and undermine its technological edge. Coordinated embargoes blocked Soviet access to key tech computers, microchips, oil equipment, while American intelligence studied every Soviet innovation. Secret sabotage programs seeded defective technology through trade channels, slowing Soviet industry. American innovation in space, military hardware, and information networks upped global competition, forcing the USA to overspend on its own research and military buildup. Over time, the CIA noted system-wide weaknesses: central planning, poor consumer goods, lack of incentives, mounting debt. Soviet leaders spent more and more to keep up. American analysts began to hope if the USA spent itself into ruin, the communist system itself might fall. Chapter 4. Psychological pressure and cultural warfare. The war of ideas was never just about guns or money. American planners believed that undermining Soviet morale and faith in their government would spark internal collapse. Voice of America, Radio Liberty, and other broadcasts delivered uncensored news and American perspectives behind the Iron Curtain. Dissident writers, samizdat literature, and secret Western support gave Soviet citizens glimpses of life beyond communist borders. The music, fashion, and material temptations of the West penetrated Soviet youth, making the communist system seem creaky and outdated. By the 1980s, young policymakers in Washington started asking a dangerous question: if the system itself collapsed, would the world be safer? Chapter 5. Strategic plans for dissolution. The late 1970s and 1980s. Some American elites and hawks actively dreamed of the Soviet Union's breakup. Policy documents and intelligence papers began to outline maximalist strategies to encourage internal dissent, nationalist movements, and economic breakdown. Research focused on how local nationalism in Ukraine, the Baltic states, and the Caucasus could be exploited to weaken Moscow's grip. Covert support made its way to underground movements, church groups, and reformers, often via European allies. The hope was simple: a mosaic of independent republics would be easier to engage, trade with, and compete against than a single massive communist power. But even as some planners imagined this, others feared disaster. What if civil war broke out? What if nuclear weapons were scattered? What if Russia collapsed completely? Chapter 6. Why did the once Soviet collapse? The logic behind America's secret push is complex and multifaceted. Global security, or weaker, divided USSR would pose less threat of nuclear war, conventional invasion, and sabotage. Economic advantage, the collapse would open up huge markets for us goods and investment, and give access to oil, gas, and minerals. Freedom and democracy, us leaders saw the fall as a way to liberate millions from communism, ending the evil empire. Ideological victory, the image of capitalism triumphing over socialism, became a central narrative for motivating Americans, allies, and businesses. Military and technical superiority, no longer challenged by Soviet technology, America could reallocate vast budgets to domestic needs, turbocharge innovation, and reshape the world order. Chapter 7. Cold War fears and dilemmas. Not everyone in Washington wanted the USA to disappear overnight. Some feared chaos, with thousands of nuclear warheads spread across Soviet republics. Sudden disintegration could mean weapons ended up with rogue states, terrorists, or organized crime. Ethnic wars, civil unrest, starvation, refugee crises all haunted CIA and State Department analysts. President Bush and other moderates pushed for negotiated reforms, arms reductions, and gradual change. They wanted the Warsaw Pact ended, but not a Yugoslavia-like scenario with nuclear weapons. The rapid collapse of USA outpaced most US planners, who were left improvising emergency aid, rescue missions, and quick diplomatic fixes in 1991. Chapter 8. The final moves, diplomacy and aftermath. As the USA unraveled in 1991, the US scrambled to control the process, minimize risks, and shape the future. Urgent negotiations focused on consolidating nuclear arsenals, supporting moderate leaders, and channeling aid to stabilize the region. American teams rushed into Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan to help secure nuclear stockpiles. They supported free market reforms, anti-corruption campaigns, and civil society groups, hoping the new nations wouldn't slip back into chaos or authoritarianism. In public, the mood was triumphant. This evil empire had fallen, democracy had won. But inside government, anxiety ran high. The world had changed forever, and dangers lurked everywhere. Chapter 9. Legacies of the collapse. The consequences of the Soviet collapse reshaped the globe. New democracies and shaky autocracies emerged from the ruins. American investors and corporations flooded into newly opened markets. Russia, a former superpower, faced social, economic, and psychological trauma. This found itself at the height of its global influence, but also confronted new challenges, like nuclear proliferation, drug trafficking, and regional instability. Conclusion. The American plans for the collapse of the USSR were never simple plots whispered in dark rooms. They were a long, evolving mosaic of strategies, hopes, and fears. Some truly believed that a divided, democratic post-Soviet world would be safer, richer, and freer. Others worried that chaos and war could follow. In the end, the Soviet Union fell with breathtaking speed, leaving America and the world to pick up the pieces. This story reminds us, behind every headline, every policy, and every speech is a deeper game, one where the stakes are nothing less than the fate of nations. The Cold War's end was engineered piece by piece, and its legacy is still unfolding around us.